They never looked at me the way they looked at her. Her name was always said with light in their eyes. Mine? Mostly in passing or in silence. He won trophies. She got applause. I learned how to clap without being seen. They said I lacked drive. That I was too sensitive, too quiet, too me. They didn't say it to hurt me. But it still hurt. It wasn't jealousy. I just didn't know where to place my worth when no one was looking for it. But that was before everything shifted. Before the world, without knowing, started whispering my name. Not loudly, but with meaning. My name is Alyssa Hart, I'm 29, and I live in Asheville, North Carolina. And for most of my life, I was just the other sibling. When you grow up in the same house as a star, you learn to adjust your shine. My older brother, Jason Hart, was their golden boy. Straight-A student, captain of the debate team, first-place science fair winner, full ride to Stanford. They said he was born with brilliance. And maybe he was. Every family event, every reunion, every dinner with family friends, you must be so proud of Jason. And my mom would smile, tilt her head and say, he's always been special. Then they'd glance at me, like waiting for the punchline, and return to their wine. I was good at art, drawing things that weren't real, but made people feel something. I loved poetry, sketchbooks, shadows, silence. But in a house like ours, that didn't count for much. My dad once told me at breakfast, passion is fine, but stability is better. I was 15, still remembering that line like it was stamped on the edge of my spine. I followed the path, though, tried to mold myself into what would make them proud. Enrolled in pre-law at NYU, just like Jason suggested. I told myself I'd catch up, that I'd matter if I worked harder. But by sophomore year, the weight of being someone else crushed me. It started with little things. Skipping classes, missing deadlines, falling asleep in the library with my laptop open and nothing on the screen. Then came the panic attacks. One outside the subway station. Another during finals, right in the lecture hall. I remember gripping my chest, my hands shaking uncontrollably. A professor knelt down beside me, asked if I'd eaten that day. I hadn't. I didn't tell my parents. I told them I needed to take a leave to reassess my focus. Mom said, just don't make this a pattern. Dad sighed, muttered something like, you're not quitting, right? But I had already quit, just not out loud. Back home, everything felt quieter. Jason had started his own tech company by then. At Thanksgiving, he showed everyone an app he developed for remote team collaboration. Even my grandmother, who barely used her flip phone, nodded in approval.
Me?
I helped set the table.
Poured drinks.
Nodded when someone asked if I was still finding myself. The kindest assumption they ever made. The worst part wasn't that they ignored me. It was that they erased me with politeness. She's just taking a break. She'll figure it out. We don't talk about that anymore. I started looking for jobs that didn't ask for a degree. Data entry. Assistant roles. Receptionist at a vet clinic. Nothing stuck. And for the first time I realized, it wasn't that I failed. It was that I didn't belong to the version of success they built around Jason. So I stopped trying to fit. Stopped auditioning for the family spotlight. I found a shared room in a small apartment in Queens. My roommate was a barista who made zines. We bonded over almond milk and disappointment. That's where I began again. Quietly. No announcement. No applause. But no one noticed. I never planned to start over. I just needed something to fill the silence. My roommate, Brittany, worked part-time at a local nonprofit in Brooklyn. They had a computer lab for seniors, mostly older folks who wanted to learn how to email their grandkids, shop online, or just not feel like strangers in a digital world. One day, she said, they need someone who knows basic tech. You're good with computers, right? I almost laughed. I had spent 4 years pretending to be someone else at NYU. Now I was being asked to teach someone how to right-click. But I showed up the next Monday. Wore an old cardigan. Tied my hair back. Tried not to feel like I was failing. The room smelled like Lysol and printer ink. 12 desktop computers lined the walls. 8 older adults sat waiting. One woman, Mrs. Nettie Garcia, 76, Bronx native, gold hoop earrings, sharp tongue, stared me down. "You the new kid?" I nodded. "You better not talk to me like I'm 5. I buried 2 husbands and beat cancer twice. I can handle a damn laptop." I smiled. I liked her already. The first 2 weeks were chaos. Passwords forgotten. Mice unplugged. Arguments over which button was the internet. But something strange happened. I started looking forward to it. To Nettie calling me baby girl. To Mr. Howard asking me about Spotify like it was a spaceship. One afternoon, Nettie stayed behind after class. She was unusually quiet. "I need to send an email," she said. "To my son." She hadn't spoken to him in 3 years. They'd argued over politics, then stopped talking altogether. She typed slowly, paused often, deleted sentences, started again. I sat beside her, silent, just present, not instructing, not advising. When she finally hit send, she whispered, "You brought my baby into my living room." I swallowed hard. She didn't mean me, exactly. She meant the technology, the chance, the access. But somehow, I was part of that connection. I took the subway home that day with tears in my eyes. For the first time in years, I felt useful. I kept coming back. Taught sessions 3 days a week. Created handouts with pictures and giant arrows. Got to know their routines, their coffee orders, their grief. I learned that Mr. Howard lost his wife last year. That Elaine, who never spoke much, used to be a jazz pianist. That Dorothy had a daughter who lived in Berlin and hadn't called since 2020. This wasn't law school. It wasn't flashy. No LinkedIn claps or proud parents. But it mattered. I started developing a simple platform, a stripped-down, senior-friendly tutorial hub. Videos. Step-by-step guides. Printable worksheets. I called it Silver Steps. The logo was just a pair of soft, gray footprints. I didn't even buy a domain at first. Just hosted it on a free blog page. The first week, 5 people used it. The second, 19. By the 3rd month, we had 200 visits, most from nursing homes and public libraries. No ads. No marketing budget. Just word of mouth and a quiet need. I started documenting stories. Little video clips. Photos of trembling hands on trackpads. Laughs when someone finally joined a Zoom call or ordered their first Amazon delivery. It wasn't dramatic, but it was real. Once, Nettie brought in a small cupcake, placed it on my desk and said, "Happy rebirth day." I raised an eyebrow. "You ain't dead," she smirked, "but you sure act more alive than when you first walked in." I didn't know how to explain it. That giving something, without expecting anything, had quietly stitched my insides back together. That these people, these digital dinosaurs, as Nettie lovingly called them, had taught me more about connection, patience, and purpose than any lecture hall ever had. I stopped caring about who I was supposed to become. I just became present. And no, it didn't make headlines. But it mattered. The small classroom in Brooklyn became something else. Not a charity project. Not a side gig. A mission. A pulse. A quiet revolution in grayscale fonts and oversized buttons. By the start of the next year, I'd converted Silver Steps into a fully responsive platform. I learned how to code in bits and pieces, YouTube tutorials, old textbooks, Reddit threads. It wasn't elegant, but it worked. We added sections for family messaging, online safety, even scam alert bulletins. Partnered with a local community center to host monthly Zoom workshops. My phone buzzed constantly, not with praise, but with possibilities. Care homes in Vermont, libraries in Kansas, even a senior center in Toronto reached out. Word had spread through forums, churches, friends of friends. We were onboarding 1,200 seniors per month. The email open rate was 78%, higher than many major platforms. But the best part? The comments. First time I saw my granddaughter's face in 2 years. "Thank you." I thought I was too old to matter anymore. Turns out I just needed someone to explain slowly. I printed out your PDF guide and taught 3 women in my building. We call ourselves the Click Chicks now. The world outside my family was noticing, but the people inside my family still weren't. Thanksgiving, year 2. Jason was speaking on a podcast about the future of AI. Mom played the clip twice on her phone at the dinner table. Listen to how clear he sounds, she beamed. Such leadership in his voice. I had brought a small scrapbook of Silver Steps photos. Smiling seniors. Handwritten thank you notes. I slid it quietly next to Dad. He flipped through a few pages, nodded. Said, teaching old folks to click buttons? Real noble work. Then he passed the gravy. Jason smiled politely at me. He meant well. He always does. He just doesn't get it. To them, I was still finding myself. To me, I had already been found. I was just in a different room. At a family reunion, my aunt pulled me aside. So, still doing that internet thing? I nodded. Such a free spirit. You always were the artsy one. I smiled, but my stomach nodded. Free spirit was code for unemployed. Artsy was just another way to say directionless. They still saw me through the lens of who I was when I failed. Not who I became when I rebuilt. But outside those living rooms and dining tables, something real was happening. We received a small grant from a digital inclusion nonprofit. I hired 2 part-time developers, Malik and Elena, both brilliant, both previously overlooked. Together, we streamlined the site, added multilingual support, introduced live chat. By the end of the fiscal year, we had over 18,000 monthly users across North America. No investor pitches. No viral tweets. Just steady, quiet growth. We partnered with a major retirement chain to offer in-person digital literacy boot camps. The first workshop filled up in under 4 hours. People brought their neighbors, their church friends. Their grandkids came to cheer them on. But still, no one in my family really asked. Not really. Once, my cousin asked if I had found a real job yet. I told him I was running a startup. He blinked. Like, Uber. Another time, Mom asked if I'd consider going back to school. She meant well. They all meant well. But I wasn't waiting for their recognition anymore. I had learned something deeper, that value isn't always visible. And impact doesn't always come wrapped in titles. Still, there was a part of me that wondered, would they ever see me, not as a runner-up to Jason's brilliance, but as someone who mattered in a different way? Someone who didn't just try to change the world, but quietly was? That answer came, but not from them. Not yet. The moment came without warning. Not with a bang. Not with a press release. Just a gentle knock in a room full of people who thought they knew me. It was Jason's engagement party, held at a sleek rooftop venue in Manhattan. The kind with tiny lights and glasses of sparkling water and servers who didn't smile. He had proposed to Madeline Price, an executive at a venture capital firm. Everything about the night felt like it belonged in a glossy magazine. Except me. I wore a simple navy dress. Hair pulled into a loose braid. No heels, just flats I could stand in without losing myself. As usual, I hovered at the edge of every group, nodded politely, smiled too much, held my glass like it contained more confidence than it actually did. Then she walked over. Madeline's aunt, I think. Mid-50s, kind eyes, wine in one hand, curiosity in the other. We exchanged names. Small talk. Then she said, "So, what do you do, Alyssa?" I opened my mouth, already preparing the diluted version. You know, I work with seniors sometimes, version. But before I could speak, someone else cut in. A woman across the circle, silver dress, red curls, voice like velvet. "Wait, Silver Steps?" she asked. My heart caught. "Yes," I said slowly. "Why?" She stared at me. For a moment, she said nothing. Then she smiled, not politely, but with something close to awe. "You run Silver Steps?" I nodded. Still cautious. Still unsure. She set down her drink and stepped closer. My dad was in a nursing home in Trenton. Completely shut down after Mom passed. Wouldn't talk. Wouldn't eat. We tried everything. Then a nurse helped him log onto Silver Steps. He watched your intro video about sending email. He laughed. For the first time in months. Then he sent me a message. "Tell Maddie I figured it out. Love, Dad." Her voice cracked. I cried so hard I dropped my phone. Everyone in the circle had stopped speaking. Jason had wandered over. So had our parents. She looked around the group, then pointed at me. This woman right here gave me my father back. I don't know how she built it or why, but I'm telling you, your work is saving people. I could feel every pair of eyes on me. Some wide, some confused. Jason looked stunned. Like he'd just learned his kid sister was a secret astronaut. Dad cleared his throat. Wait, what is this? Silver, what? Jason blinked. You never told us it grew that big. I smiled. Softly. Didn't raise my voice. Didn't explain the numbers. I just said, you never ask. Madeline stepped forward. Took my hand in hers. She's incredible, she said to Jason. To all of you. You should be so proud. I couldn't look my mother in the eye. Not yet. But I saw her lips pressed together. I saw the emotion she tried to swallow. The woman in the silver dress added, I've told everyone about Silver Steps. You have no idea what you've started. And then, the strangest thing happened. Jason put his arm around me, held me there, and whispered, You really did it. Without any of us noticing, you became something else. I smiled. Not because I needed to, not because I was performing, but because something inside me had finally clicked. Not because I demanded attention, not because I begged for recognition, but because the truth walked in by itself and refused to stay quiet. The party ended like all parties do. Too many handshakes, hugs that lingered too long, someone crying in the restroom. But something was different this time. Not in the crowd. In me. Jason texted me the next day. Just a simple line. Can we grab coffee? I want to hear everything. We met at a corner cafe in Midtown. He was already there, laptop open, 2 drinks waiting. No agenda. No big brother energy. Just presence. He asked about the early days. How I coded the platform. How I kept it going. How I handled rejection and grants and burnout and back-end bugs that made me want to scream into a cereal box. And for once, he listened. Really listened. Halfway through my second cup, he leaned back and said, I was so focused on building empires, I didn't see the quiet kingdom you were creating. I didn't cry. I thought I might. But instead I smiled and said, I guess we were building different kinds of bridges. He nodded. I'm proud of you, Liz. Not for proving anyone wrong, but for staying in it long enough to prove yourself right. Later that week, a note arrived. Just a small, white envelope. No return address. Just my name, in my mother's handwriting. Inside, a letter. No long paragraphs. No apologies stretched into explanations. Just this. I didn't understand your path, but I'm beginning to see the light you followed. Thank you for helping people. Even when no one helped you. I'm proud to be your mother. Love, Mom. I didn't frame it. Didn't post about it. I just folded it once and placed it inside my journal. I didn't need more than that. Not anymore. My relationship with my parents didn't transform overnight. There were still awkward dinners, too long pauses, missteps in conversation. But there was a softness now. An effort. Dad started asking about the platform. Mom sent me an article about online access for seniors. Jason introduced me to a UX designer he thought might be a good fit. Small gestures. Tiny cracks in the wall I once stood behind. And through it all, I changed. Not in some triumphant, rocky music montage kind of way, but in the subtle moments. Like when I said no to a collaboration that didn't align with my values and didn't explain myself. Or when I turned down a speaking opportunity because it fell on Nettie's birthday and she wanted cake and bingo and stories about her third husband. Or when I sat alone in my apartment, reading old emails from users and smiled because I knew, deeply, that what I'd built was real. People always ask when I stopped needing their approval. The truth is, I don't know if I ever fully stopped. I just stopped letting that need direct my life. Because what I gained was something stronger than pride. It was peace. Now I walk differently. Not taller, just steadier. I don't search for my name in other people's praise. I don't shrink around success. And I don't compare my journey to someone else's map. I look in the mirror and see a builder, a connector, a quiet force in soft sneakers and secondhand sweaters. And that is enough. If you've ever felt like the side note in someone else's success story, if you've ever sat quietly while the world cheered for someone else, if you've ever whispered, "What about me?" into the silence of your own room, this story was for you. Because I've learned that visibility and value are not the same. That some of the most powerful legacies are built without applause. That being unseen doesn't mean you're unworthy. It just means your light is working in places people aren't looking yet. You don't have to be the family favorite, the headline maker, or the loudest voice in the room to matter. Sometimes hope walks in quietly. Sometimes impact wears soft shoes. So tell me, where are you watching from? What part of your story still feels invisible? Drop it in the comments, not for validation, but because someone out there needs to know they're not alone. Your voice has weight. Your path has purpose. Your story, even the broken parts, is still sacred. On this channel, we honor the quiet victories, the second chances, the slow, real journeys, the ones like yours. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. And most of all, thank you for not giving up on yourself. More stories are coming. Until then, stay steady, stay soft, stay seen.